Hi, my name is Holly.
And I'm Alexa.
And I'm Elizabeth.
Today we have a very special guest. Please welcome the Mayor of Prospect, Matt Larwood.
Mayor Larwood, how are you?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
Thank you for coming to Prospect North Primary School and the PNC studio.
No problems.
You have such an interesting job. What made you want to become the mayor?
Well, I've lived in the area for 47 years and I've been on council already for 8 years, and I guess I'm the sort of person who I've seen a lot of great things happen around Prospect over that period of time, even from a young kid all the way through to my adult years. Lots of stuff goes on, lots of stuff the community can benefit from, but there was also some areas where I thought council could do better. So rather than being one of those people who sit back and complain about things and wish things were different, I decided to put my hand up and first of all apply to be an elected member, which I was successful for around 8 years ago. And then I nominated again and I was elected as an elected member, and I spent the last 4 years as the deputy mayor. And then the opportunity came up to put my hand up to run for mayor when the previous mayor, Mayor O'Loughlin, decided not to run. So I thought, well, do I continue on and continue to get involved and look to improve the things that I see can be improved and come up with new ideas, or do I sit back and be one of those complaining people? And I decided, well, no, I'll put my hand up and I'll be one of those people who wants to get involved and help make things happen. So that's why I wanted to be mayor. There's a lot of great things that happen in the city of Prospect, a lot that we can be proud of. I really enjoy the opportunity to be involved in doing those good things.
What were you doing prior to this job?
Well, I actually have a job apart from this. This is not my full-time job. I've got a full-time job. I work for a software company. That's what I've been doing for quite a while. But as I mentioned before this, I was deputy mayor for 4 years, and before that I was an elected member for 4 years.
What is the hardest thing about being the mayor?
Remembering everybody's names. I generally wear a name badge, so people generally know my name, but I come across heaps and heaps of people, either who work for council or members of the community, people who I've met before, people who I haven't met that seem to know me, but I don't know them because they can read my name badge. So that's difficult. It's also fitting everything in, because there's heaps and heaps of different things that a mayor could do.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an example of one of those things that I choose to do. It's just not possible to fit everything in. So that's probably one of the other hard things about being a mayor is, I guess the third thing is understanding that you can't make everybody happy all the time.
Yeah.
There's lots of things that people want you to do, and people get in touch via email or phone or messenger, or they come up to me in the shops or when I'm walking down the street, and people, want me to do things, and the mayor can't do everything. And it's not always possible to make everybody happy. So that's another thing which is difficult, is trying to make the right decisions that mean that most people are going to be happy with those decisions.
What primary school and high school did you attend?
So I went to Rosary School. I lived in the country until I was 8, so I lived in Udunda, which is just near the Barossa Valley. And then we moved to Prospect in 1976, and I went to Rosary School as my primary school. Then I went to Blackfriars as my secondary school from 1980 to 1985, so about 1,000 years ago now. Well, not quite, but it seems like a long time ago.
What are your hobbies and interests?
So I play sport. I've been playing lacrosse since 1978. I've never been fantastic at it, but I continue to come out, and I've been involved with that club as a president, committee member, coach, player, just a general volunteer for a lot of my life as well. I also like watching movies, and I'm starting to get into a few series on TV. I'm a music fan as well, and recently someone gave me a PS4.
Oh, wow.
I know that PS5 is the most recent one, but someone gave me the old PS4 plus a bunch of games. So I've decided to start off a career as a gamer at the age of 54.
Do you have any favourite games yet on the PlayStation?
So far I'm playing Resident Evil, which I'm not sure whether you guys are allowed to play.
He would.
Yeah, Resident Evil 7, playing that one. And there's also another one called The Last of Us, which I've downloaded and I haven't started playing that one yet. I want to get through Resident Evil 7 a bit further, finish that game off, and then I'll start playing The Last of Us.
Is it fun?
Yeah, it's a lot more fun than what I thought it would be, actually. Yeah, I thought it would just be about shooting and things like that. But there's a lot of strategy and there's a lot of sort of figuring out problems and problem solving, and a lot of skill involved. You've got to remember where you've been and where you need to go and what you need to do and what you need to collect on the way to help you do the things you need to do. So it's a lot different than what I thought it would actually be.
Okay, Mayor Larwood, off topic now, but who is your favourite artist of all time?
Okay, so I had to think about this. Probably 3 bands. I'd really like an Australian band from the mid-'80s called Midnight Oil. Their lead singer is a guy called Peter Garrett, who's a former politician and a guy who's very passionate about lots of causes, particularly the environment. So I was a big fan of Midnight Oil growing up. I like an English band called The Cure, who are, again, from about the same era. And then one of my other favourite bands is an American band called the Beastie Boys. I don't know whether you guys have heard of any of those groups or not, but they're some of my favourite artists.
So the first 2 bands, I haven't heard of them. Could you explain, maybe summarise what the music is like, the genre?
Well, Midnight Oil, I suppose you'd call them rock and roll. But not it's sort of similar to other bands like AC/DC and Crowded House and those types of things like that. But the thing about Midnight Oil, which is a bit different, is that a lot of their music is based around causes, and so there's a lot of meaning in behind what they talk about. So there's lots of stuff there about Indigenous rights. More recently, there's lots of stuff about the environment. There's lots of stuff about just fairness and living life in Australia. So Midnight Oil is that sort of band. And as I mentioned, the lead singer is Peter Garrett, who is quite a very well-known former politician and a real environmental warrior. The Cure is, I guess you'd call it, it's typical sort of 1980s English music. Again, they just sing about normal sort of things like that. But yeah, you've got to be a bit older than you to probably have known The Cure. But I mean, so you know the Beastie Boys?
I do know that. I have a wide variety of music tastes, I don't mind listening to different things. But
yeah, I'm not really much for rap by myself, but I do enjoy listening to the Beastie Boys.
Which team do you support in the AFL?
Well, I'm one of those annoying people. I don't really follow that much football, so my answer to that is that I support the Crows and Port. However, if it's a showdown, then I'll find myself barracking for the Port Power over the Crows. Go the Power.
Go the Power. I go for Power and Collingwood. But
Nice one. Well, you're 50% okay and 50%, got a bit of thinking to do, I think.
Why would you go for Port in the showdown?
Well, I barracked for Port Adelaide in the local football when I was younger. And because I've never played football, I've always played lacrosse. As I mentioned, I'm not really super passionate about football, so I prefer a South Australian side to win. And then if it's 2 South Australian sides playing each other, then I just fall back to my old days of being a black and white fan. So that's why I go for Port Power.
Okay.
you mentioned that you don't really get too involved in AFL. Do you have a favourite sport to watch?
Well, I watch a little bit of footy, but I also really enjoy watching lacrosse. The World Championships are coming up. They're being played in San Diego over in the States coming up, so I'll probably do a little bit of streaming of that as well. I'd probably say I like watching a few different sports as long as it's a high quality. So I like watching the cricket test matches more than 2020 and one day stuff. I don't watch a lot of soccer. I'm not a massive soccer fan. I don't mind watching a bit of AFL, but I don't really sit down and watch full games. I just sort of flick channels and watch a little bit here and there. But yeah, as long as it's high skill sport, then I don't mind watching that.
Do you have a most embarrassing moment?
No, I don't. Although the other day I was at a council function and I had my name badge on and I didn't realise it, but my name badge was upside down for about half of it. And do you know what that means? If it was a flag, what would that mean? Anyone have a guess? If a flag is flown upside down, it's a signal of distress. So maybe when people saw my mayor's badge as being upside down, maybe they thought, oh, maybe he's distressed about something or other, but I just put it on the wrong way. So
Yeah.
Once I realised that, I took it off and turned it around the right way. So yeah, that was a little bit embarrassing.
If you weren't the mayor of Prospect, what occupation could you see yourself doing right now?
Well, as I mentioned before, I do have a full-time job, so I'm the CEO of a software company. So if I wasn't the mayor of Prospect, then I think that I would just be doing that job.
What type of stuff do you do in the software company?
So our company makes software systems for a whole range of industries. So I'm not involved from a technical point of view. I'm in the management side of the business.
Okay.
What advice would you give us young people for the future?
That's a really good question. A couple of things. I think it's important to be interested in what's going on around you. So it's probably easy for kids just to sort of think, well, I go to school and I might play a bit of sport and I've got a few hobbies on the side, and that's all I really need to worry about. But I think it's really important that you take an interest in what's going on more broadly than that. I'm not saying you have to become political and get into, Labor's better than Liberal, or, I go for the Greens or whatever it might be. But I think it's really important that you do take an interest in what's going on around you. And you can do that at a community level by taking an interest in what's going on just in your local streets. What are the playgrounds like? What are the parks like? What are the streets like? What are the events that happen in local government around this area that I can get involved with and go to? And just be interested in those kind of things like that. I think that's really important. And then you can potentially also have some interest in some of the bigger issues that are going on, such as the environment and climate change and recycling, and all those kind of things like that are all sort of tied in together. And I think it's important that you guys take an interest in those types of things like that. I'd also say that it's never too early to start thinking about what you might do when you grow up. But also don't be too concerned about having to make those decisions too early in life. My advice would be to continue to work really hard at school, whether it be primary school or secondary school, and do as well as you can, and that's going to open up lots of options for you down the track. But don't be in... Everyone thinks you've got to have worked out what you're going to do in life by the age of about 15 or 16, but you don't have to. I'd definitely advise people to try a whole range of things, be open-minded, think broadly about what they might want to do, and the right thing for you to end up doing with your life will present itself through that process.
Did you have a childhood dream, like career-wise? Did you have a dream career as a child?
I didn't have a dream career as a child. I thought I might want to be an architect when I was growing up. But when I finished school, I actually studied visual arts, and then I spent the first 20 years of my life as a glassblower. So I didn't get straight into working for a software company or being involved in local government. I was a glass blower. There's a place in the city that you might have heard of called the Jam Factory. You should check it out. It's a pretty cool place. Well, it's actually a pretty warm place because it's a glass blowing workshop. So I spent 20 years of my life either studying or making hand blown glass, and also I ran the Jam Factory glass studio for a number of years and ran my own small business. So I think by the time I was sort of 16, 17, that was something that I was pretty keen on. And so that's something that I spent nearly 20 years of my life doing. But yeah, right back in the day, I thought an architect might be pretty cool, designing and building things. I've got a question for you guys.
Yes.
So why are you involved in this? What makes this an interesting thing to do?
Because it helps us build our we have these powers. We call them the secret powers, and each letter stands for something. S we call self-managing. Self-managing helps us understand ourselves and build our confidence in front of people while talking to an audience or to a person. It helps us with ourselves, and it's just really helpful with us.
Great. What about you guys? Why are you involved in this?
I think the reason that I get involved in PNTV is because I think it's important to be a role model for younger students, and doing this early in life can build life skills for when you're older. So I think it's important to really get involved in a lot of things. So you have, like you said, sort of a wide variety of things you could know you would later want to do in life. So, whether it was technology or art or anything like that, you always have those skills later on. But yeah, that's probably why I do.
Cool.
I think PNTV really helps with my confidence because I'm not a confident person normally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Good answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in today. Mayor Larwood, we really appreciate you having a chat with us. PNC Podcast out.